You're listening to The Real Short Box, a comic book podcast made for geeks by geeks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Real Short Box. My name is Dr. Kevin, the Doctor of Pop Culture. In front of me is the Duke of Youngstown, Ohio. His name is none other than the only, the indomitable Darren.
Thank you for that introduction. I've never been called a Duke before.
And to my left, a man with very few words, a man of so many talents so ridiculous that it cannot even be mentioned on this podcast. He is the Lord and Laird of Los Angeles, of North Hollywood. His name is Don the Third.
Thank you. And I'm drinking again.
And what are you drinking, sir? Well, what kind of cognac is that?
Little Jaeger.
A little Jaeger.
Helps warm the throat.
Warms the throat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this like a special occasion as to why you're drinking that, sir?
No. Otherwise, it's strange, but sometimes my voice gets a little raspy. And this cuts through it, so it makes it a little more smooth.
I see.
That Irish smooth.
Irish smooth.
I can make the case that every occasion is a special occasion.
It's true. We're alive.
You know, does that Jaeger have like a 4-leaf clover in there?
No, but it has like a bunch of herbs and botanicals, I think is what it says. Like 30-something or 70s. I don't know. A shit ton of botanicals and herbs and nonsense. It just tastes like a nice concoction that you wouldn't want to mix with anything. Or maybe Dr. Pepper.
Or does that Jaeger have the thundercloud formation that they really teased hard in Pacific Rim that Jaeger was destroyed before we even got to see the thundercloud formation?
And it was turned into this fine liquid poured into this glass before us.
Are you sure there's not a 4-leaf clover at the bottom of that Jaeger bottle?
Well, if there is, I'll get to it.
Because, you know, just like tequila, they have those cute little worms at the bottom.
Yeah. Did you ever eat one of those worms?
No, because I saw the Poltergeist 2, and that scared the hell out of me. That's why
I haven't seen that yet, so I'm fine.
Okay.
There are a lot of scenes in a hotel room in Poltergeist 2, right? Or is that Poltergeist 3?
That's Poltergeist 3.
Ah, yes, of course.
The worst of them.
I was testing you.
Well,
thank you. How much Poltergeist you
1988
really
it came out. Sir.
But how do you feel about the Poultrygeist?
Oh, that's so frightening.
It was, exactly. It was from those guys that do, what do you call it? That also did the Toxic Avenger. His name's escaping me at the moment.
Kaufman?
Is that Trauma?
Yeah.
Is that like
Lloyd
Trauma.
Kaufman?
Thank you. And Kaufman, yes, absolutely. What are we talking about today, Kevin?
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be talking about movies and talk about our preference for which format, whether it be television or the silver screen.
So you mean preference as in our comic books?
Yes.
to movies and TV.
Comics.
If we're talking movies in general, we can go all night. I'll
Comics.
just keep going. Blah,
Yeah,
blah,
yeah,
blah.
exactly.
Let's start with
Thanks.
a great train robbery in 1908.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, 1903, sir.
Before,
wow.
Before we get started, I want to do a quick shout out to recently I was in
Land of Enchantment.
the Land of Enchantment. I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I was visiting as many comic book shops as I could.
Just how high is the elevation in Albuquerque, by the way?
Albuquerque, I believe, is higher than Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like a mile 0.2 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Mile 0.4. Somewhere around there. I know I'm probably off, but it is more than what you
Close
would have.
to 6,000 feet.
Yeah, close. Yeah. So
You know, for our X-Files fans out there, did you see any grays out in New Mexico? Because after all, Roswell's there.
no, Roswell's actually pretty far from
where you were?
Albuquerque.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's that would be more of a day trip type thing.
But who are we giving a shout out to?
We're going to give a shout out to, first of all, the shop itself, the Comic Warehouse. It's 9617 Manuel Boulevard Northeast in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They have really good hours. And the gentleman that I spoke to there, his name is Scott. Very helpful guy. Normally when you go to shops and you say, I'm looking for these types of books, they say, oh, there's boxes over there, go look yourself. Scott took the time to walk with me, show me where he thought they would be, look to see if he had the particular issue, and then if he didn't have it there, he would check behind the counter just in case.
Now, that's what you call gold star service.
That really was, and that made the difference for me, and it made me give him our card and say, hey, you know, I feature shops. Sometimes we do, you know, here at the Real Short Box that we enjoy going to, and I wanted to give him a little bit of a shout out in the shop. And as a thank you, actually, he did give me these Max Protection Max Light, current comic size, crystal clear, 100 count, maximum strength, acid free, archival safe, 2 mil premium quality plastics that you would fit your current size comic books in. And I must say, Scott, if you're listening, these are excellent. The clarity is beautiful. The actual texture of the bag itself is very sharp, very clean, very sturdy.
It makes a VG look like a VF.
It really, or an NM, to be honest. It looks really good in these bags. So I appreciate that very much, Scott, and we appreciate your shop there in Albuquerque, the Comic Warehouse.
You know, it's good to make friends all around this nation, this great land of ours, when we venture out to different states. And we're so happy that Scott showed the Real Short Box's president some love.
Yeah, showed us a little love, and that was nice. It's rare to, in any place you go, to come across somebody that you can connect with, and that's so helpful. To be honest, he was extremely helpful.
Yeah, also, too, in 2019, it's just the ability we have to communicate with people that are in our community and share similar interests with us is just so great. So the fact that we can spread that word all across this podcast to make sure that everyone can hear it is pretty outstanding.
Especially over the contiguous 48.
And since we're giving a shout out to comic book shops, how about a shout out to our sponsor, Spiro's Heroes?
The original.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, everyone. Just wanted to mention real quick about a shop in Canoga Park, California called Spiro's Heroes. Elliot, the proprietor of the store, has over 300,000 books in what's called the Temple of Comics. That's Spiro Heroes in Canoga Park, spirosheroes.com.
And we're back. Hey, thank you once again. Spiro is always as reliable as can be when it comes to just preparing. I mean, this is a guy we have such a relationship with. He will call us directly and say, hey, you may like what I've just got in.
Well, when you're the godfather of comics, you better accept that phone call.
Yep. You better answer that call. When Elliot comes a-calling, you pick it up. I don't care what you're doing.
Or you'll be swimming with the fishes and the long boxes.
Now, Kevin, I want to ask you, do you prefer the movie or the TV format, specifically one over the other?
You know, to be honest with you, it depends on the particular title.
And Donald, what are your thoughts on the TV movie format? Is there one you prefer to the other?
It's going to vary based upon my mood, to be honest.
I'll tell you, I lean mostly toward movies.
Okay.
But once again, like you said, I mean, it really depends on the situation. You know, if you have a TV series with my favorite comic book hero, I'm likely to get into it. If there is a movie that has a really bad comic hero I don't care for, I won't get into it. So,
you know, there's an interesting dichotomy I wanted to briefly discuss, and that's the character of Daredevil. You had a movie, and of course you had a TV series.
Oh, that movie. Was Colin Farrell played Bullseye, and he literally had, carved into his head, a bullseye instead of a mask.
Yeah.
Which was ridiculous. But again, the TV series did kind of almost the same thing in that manner of speaking. They really didn't. No one's given Bullseye the justice that he deserves yet in movie or television form. Although I will say, comparing the two characters, I felt that Colin Farrell's Bullseye was a little more Batman Forever camp, or Batman and Robin cheese versus...
I did enjoy the scene, and that was kind of messed up, is Sick of Me, with like the old granny in the airplane.
Oh, yeah.
And bonus points if you can name the director of that film. Don't look it up. You don't need to look it up.
Why would I do that for?
Oh, Jesus.
I would never do such a thing.
What was his name? Oh, God.
Who's also the writer of the screenplay.
It wasn't McGee.
It was not McGee.
No. He did Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, he did Charlie's Angels. Joe Carnahan?
Not Joe Carnahan.
I'll give you a hint. He has 3 names.
You looked it up.
No.
You schmo.
Was it, farts. I don't know.
It would be Mark Steven Johnson.
There you
go.
Right.
Also
Yes.
directed Ghost Rider. Pretty
Thank
random.
you.
I don't feel like I've heard his name since. No
No.
disrespect.
No.
But I mean, yeah.
It's unfortunate.
But please continue, Kevin.
We'll say the idea that he came up with the radar vision thing. I thought that was really cool in the rain.
That was cool.
Super cool.
Yeah,
but
you gotta get props for that.
it might not even have been his idea, to be honest. So we're maybe giving him props where props aren't due.
I see.
I would just say that the movie was kind of a turd.
Now, what's interesting about the movie, it has a good cast. I mean, you have Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner, Colin Farrell, the late and honorable Michael Clark Duncan.
Yes.
John Favreau, who, of course, we know him very well, what he's going on
And
to.
you know me particularly. I'm not someone that likes to muck around with characters. If a character is an old white man in the comics, he should be an old white man in the movie.
Right.
You know, I don't want him to be a young, Filipino or just a young white man in general or a woman or anything. I want him to be the characters that I grew up reading.
Yes.
But Michael Clark Duncan did win me over as the Kingpin.
He looked the part, He
looked the part. He acted the part.
He had a nice, quiet
He sold it.
charisma.
Well, the fact is, he was still wearing suits. He was still had the broad shoulders, and he was bald.
And he had the presence where, like, okay, this is the Kingpin. I ain't messing with him.
Yep.
Yep.
The presence is what it's all about.
And especially when it comes to the character of Kingpin, you have to have the presence. If you don't have the presence, it's over. Just like, hey, there's a little side note, because you know how upset I am about this. X-Men Apocalypse. The actor who played Apocalypse, unfortunately, you didn't have the presence. You got to have the presence when you play some of these characters, especially these very high-end villains.
Yeah, who was that? What's the guy's name? He also played Poe.
In Star Wars.
Poe Dameron. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question I'd like to throw out to you guys when it comes to Daredevil. Obviously, I think you will probably hear most people would prefer that TV series as opposed to the movie. But is this because it's more suited for a television series, or just the movie got it wrong?
I think you might have answered that question. The movie just didn't do a good job of executing the character.
That was Oscar Isaac, by the way.
Yes, Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
Props to you, young man, but not to X-Men Apocalypse. You were miscast. But anyway, the TV series, probably because you had time to really tell the story and really have it mature, that's why it's so beloved, and that's why it's Netflix's best Marvel show.
Absolutely.
I mean, that first season was amazing.
First season was amazing. Second season was solid. Third season was excellent. Excellent for a third season. After every other single series that they produced after that shit the bed.
Or was mediocre.
Every single one of them shit the bed. Every single. Jessica Jones, solid first season.
And after that, it goes downhill.
Second season, shit the bed. Luke Cage, first season, the first half, solid. Second half and the second season, totally shit the bed. Let's not even talk about Iron Fist. We all know what happened there.
Yeah.
And then Defenders, the whole thing was a
Defenders, you could tell, the reason why, because it was rushed. They was trying to throw something out there as quickly as possible. Now
it's just all dumb.
When Kingpin should have been the guy who was the head of the Hand, or at least be like a big major part,
like another character that we recognize, like Tombstone or somebody like that.
How awesome would that have been?
The guy, I swear, and I might have said this before on the pod, but I don't know. The guy that played in the second season of Luke Cage, he knew like Capoeira and stuff.
Yeah.
What was his name?
The Jamaican, I can't be saying, but yeah, Jamaican.
It's a snake name.
Yes.
Right? Bushmaster.
Right?
Guy that played Bushmaster should have been Tombstone.
He looks like him.
He looks exactly like Tombstone. How do you get that casting wrong?
I know.
How do you get it so wrong?
I know.
Like, the only way I can conceive that this happened is they were like, oh, well, we have him as Tombstone, and we've cast the perfect man, and then somebody comes in, sir, we just got news. We can't use the character's name Tombstone. We can't use that. Oh, well then, what could we do? Well, we've got a few names here. We've got, let's see, we've got somebody from the Serpent Society we could use, or we have maybe Bushmaster.
I like Bushmaster.
Yeah, Bushmaster. My grandfather drank the beer.
Johnson, send an email and a fax immediately to
Johnson. Bushmaster sounds like baked beans, like. But Donald, do you have particularly, because I feel like we should tackle TV here first, but do you have a TV show specifically that you like, or maybe one perhaps that just didn't work for you?
Okay, so off the top of my head, I'm thinking instantly of what we have recent. Recent, we have a lot of shows from the CW. And the CW does a lot of DC comic-related titles. They've done their first one, which was Arrow.
Of course.
And then they did The Flash.
Of course.
And then they did Legends of Tomorrow. And then they actually brought over Supergirl as well. And then Black Lightning.
Right.
Now, out of all of those, I feel the one that works the best and this wasn't the case at first, by the way, but the one that works the best is DC's Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, you do talk this one up quite a bit, especially
I
the
do.
later seasons.
Yes, the first season was trash. I recommend nobody watch it. It's garbage.
Wish you would have told me that ahead of time.
I know, I'm sorry. The only way I would recommend watching the first is if it's like something in the background. You know what I mean? Like, let's say you're doing your laundry or you're sewing some pants or something. I don't know. You're tying one off. Whatever you're doing, play that in the background. Don't get too involved in it because it's going to let you down. It's shit.
That Vandal Savage casting is so weird.
What a turd. I'm sorry that actor was miscast like a motherfucker.
I know you had your favorite Vandal Savage casting that we can no longer do.
I swear to God, if I had my way, I don't know if you guys know this, but I did a series called The Blue Beetle Ted Cord Returns. Mm-hmm. It is on YouTube. You can check it out. Also, rumblespoon.com. But anyway, so I did this series, and I told everybody if I did a season 4, the only way I would do it is if I could cast Tim Curry as Vandal Savage. And this is back before Tim Curry, unfortunately, had his stroke.
Yeah.
So once Tim Curry had the stroke, he was no longer able to perform in the manner that would be required of that role. So unfortunately, he could not be cast in that, and I had to go a different route for my season 4, which is coming out soon, actually. So with that, that's my vision, though. Everybody has their vision. And Vandal Savage in the comic books is a very imposing character. He's a very larger-than-life character. He's ginormous. He's tall. He's built. He has a gravitas to him that...
Hey, the man who can play Pennywise can definitely play him.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He could carry that character along. So that's what I thought. And when they came out with this limp noodle of a character in this series, I was like, oh, no, this is bad.
You're pissed.
And then they had him in Arrow too, which I don't understand. Like, whose son was he? Of what producer?
Wow.
That he got this? That's just a question. I you know what? Maybe somebody knows. Maybe he did a really good audition, but to me, he just didn't work at all. And my apologies to the actor. I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but it wasn't right for the series, and it let it off in the wrong tone. And it was withering on the vine, to be honest. And then what they did was, with season 2, they said, you know what? Let's just throw out the book, the textbook. Let's throw that out the window. We're going to make this ridiculous, and we're going to make it fun. And they did a time travel romp to rival Doctor Who.
Wow.
Like, yes, they've done it to where it is enjoyable, where I look forward to the episodes. I binge them on Netflix when they pop up. I've been waiting for the newest season. It just popped up a couple days ago that I saw on Netflix. Stoked. Can't wait to watch it. Mm-hmm. There's an episode apparently where there's puppets, where they get turned into puppets. Can't wait. Can't wait. No idea why this is going to happen, but I can't wait to watch it because it's fun. It's just a fun show. It's lighthearted. It has its serious moments. It has its campy cheese, but it knows what it is. It's not trying too hard. Arrow. It's not trying too hard to be something, and that's what I enjoy about it. So I would highly recommend DC's Legends of Tomorrow. I think that works. Now, what I don't think works, well, we since we're on the CW, and I've already kind of sort of mentioned Arrow, I don't think Arrow works. I don't think Supergirl works very well. Mm-hmm. Also, there's another series coming up soon called Batwoman.
Ooh.
That I may or may not have had the privilege of seeing the opening episode of that. And I will talk about that in another pod. But yeah, we'll just wait for that.
A wise choice to keep a lid on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I'm going to sit here and tackle, before I really get into the comparisons of movies and TV, I'm going to just stick with the TV theme here. And most of these TV shows don't draw my interest or not something I want to watch. A lot of that is my physical attention span, as far as just like being able to... how long like if you take, for example, Legends of Tomorrow season 1, which I saw, I just felt like it was going nowhere, and I don't like stuff that goes too slow. It's with TV and film, there's a different pacing.
And this was the first season, right?
Yes, the first.
Yeah.
There's a different quality of pacing when you're talking about TV versus movies, and my attention span is more movie friendly as opposed to TV series friendly.
But Duke Darren, a man of you being a mental and physical athlete, I figured you could be able to handle a binge.
It's not a matter of if I can handle it or not. It's what do I enjoy the most.
Also, here, let me throw this out. When you're watching something at home, it's so very easy to be distracted.
Yes.
When you're in a movie theater, it is so...
Your focus.
Right, so I'm assuming you prefer a movie theater over at home watching a movie.
Give your
also.
undivided attention.
Yeah, oh, of course. I mean, also, too, because even though I went to the movie theater frequently when I was younger, I still got very excited. It wasn't an everyday occurrence. So, obviously there's still a bit of magic there. But I do want to be fair, I want to throw out a TV show that works for me and one that doesn't. I'm going to go with season 1 of the new Flash series with Grant Gustin.
Another CW series, yes.
Yes. And the thing is I like the Flash character. In the DC world, it might even be a personal favorite of mine, which I think I discussed on a previous podcast. And what makes it work for me, we're talking about great acting here. You have characters, that comic book characters, there's only so many original characters you can have. So you need to have the characters on screen performing well. And we have great actors here. I'm invested in all of them. They all know their parts. They play their parts very well.
Who would have thought I would have enjoyed Vibe?
Right?
I mean, come on. The comic book version of Vibe, oh my God, no thank you. But Vibe in this, great. Phenomenal.
Even as Cisco. Because Cisco is great because he's, obviously the same character, but
right.
I like him as Cisco before he becomes Vibe.
Did you enjoy Black Lightning as well?
I did. Yeah,
Okay.
I very much enjoyed Black Lightning, actually. I haven't gotten into season 2 yet. But I did. I just did finish season 1 last week, I believe.
Good.
Yeah, it's solid.
Right. And with the Flash here, too, we also have great writing. And the reason I say in season 1 specifically it's great writing, I did not binge watch this show. I literally, old school, watched it every Tuesday when it came on. Reason I say that is I felt each episode was very well layered. There's a lot going on in these episodes. They're not simple episodes. You'll have multiple storylines going through.
Right.
And they're well written. So what happens is my brain does need time to really unravel what's happening there for me to fully enjoy it. I feel like that is a series that I could overdo very quickly. So I actually really liked it. And I'll tell you what, like a few minutes before every new episode would come on, I was really stoked. So that to me is a big credit to their writers.
Well, and also they put in, was it John Wesley Shipp? I think that's his name?
Yes.
He was the original from the 90s television series of The Flash, making him Barry's dad.
Barry's dad.
Was very smart.
That's cool.
Yeah, very smart. Very, very cool.
And for
so the
those
old
who are
school
older,
fans,
you get a
it
taste.
brought them in. And then the younger fans, it brought, they were just on board for The Flash in general.
A little Cobra Kai-ish,
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And the thing is, because they're, I really like layered and substantive content because you will not see it everywhere. Sometimes you want to turn your brain off and watch something like a Mad Max or something of that situation. Don't get me wrong. But I really think that there's a lot going on here, which I like. And also, too, it's not a perfect season, but like, it is 22 episodes long, and this is kind of my knock against a lot of those CW shows, is because they're 22 season, it's just inevitable you're going to have to drag out some things, and you're going to have to create filler. And just me personally, like, I'm not a huge fan of filler. Speaking of filler, the first 6 episodes of Krypton.
Uh-oh.
It's one of the issues you have here when you're oversaturating the entertainment market with a specific genre like superheroes are at this current moment is that you have to constantly reinvent yourself, and Krypton doesn't work for me, this reinvention. So it makes it hard for me to sit through it. So I do like Superman, but it's like they're reinventing it too much at this point. And because I don't like the setting, I don't like the tone of it, I don't like the fact that even though Brainiac, I guess you could say, was teased well, I wish he would have been thrown sooner. I mean, it's a pacing issue for me.
Yeah, because they have to drag it on to a certain amount of episodes, like you said. Everybody should... If we would have followed the British method of how they do it, sometimes their series are only 3 episodes long.
Yes.
If that's all they have to say, that's all they say, and they don't drag it on. They'll do 6 episode series, and then they'll do, I think the most is like 13 or something like that usually, and that's an enormous amount for them.
So they know when to wrap it up.
Right? Yeah, it's tight storytelling, which is what we need more of.
Well, one time I recall Ricky Gervais saying that he does not want to do a TV series that's longer than 2 seasons because he feels like he has no more ideas left after 2 seasons. You're just starting to rehash old ones. I partially agree with him, but I mean, I think it's a point that needs to be made.
Depends on the story.
Yeah, it is a point that needs to be made.
Game of Thrones.
Ah! Perfect. All right, Kevin. All right, Kevin, you're up, my friend. I feel like you have some thoughts on movies here.
Well, let's see. Another movie that I really did enjoy that I think was better. Actually, a trilogy of movies. I think Mr. Don will agree with me on this. The trilogy of Captain America.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no way, in my opinion, that could have worked as a TV show. I think it'd be better off that it was perfect as a cinematic experience.
I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general did very well. Now, when they spun off Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., parts of it worked, parts of it did not. It didn't start working until the second Captain America, when it was revealed that Hydra was involved. And
they infiltrated.
Right, and then
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. became more pleasurable, more enjoyable, as a fan anyway, and the characters became more dynamic, more fleshed out. It was good.
3-dimensional, essentially.
Exactly, yes.
And, one thing I liked about that trilogy, and I'm sure you guys will agree with me, is that it got better each movie. Although Winter Soldier, I'll say, is slightly better than Civil War. The fact that
It's definitely better.
All 3 were just a blast to sit there and watch. I mean, you were not bored.
No. I would rank first, third, second, as far as like from least to most. Or if you're going to go from most to least, second, third, and then first. You can't have any of them without the first, but I thought the first was the slowest as far as pacing and story.
They had to establish it, but it was good. Like at first we were all skeptical, well, not all of us, but I was skeptical about the casting of Chris Evans. The only thing I
already
was
played
Human Torch.
Yeah, he already played the Human Torch, and another character from, I think it was The Losers. He was another comic book character.
Yep.
So
kind of Ryan Reynolds played like in 3 or 4 different comic
I
movies.
think he's been in 3 or 4 at least 3 if not 4.
Yeah, and I mean that character he played. The name of the movie is escaping me at the moment, but the movie with the train going around through the iceberg. I mean that almost feels like a superhero.
Snowpiercer.
Yeah, it almost feels like a superhero unto himself. I'm just I'm going to be kind of like a drive-by commentator here, but like. The first one, Captain America, was not supremely intriguing to me. I liked some of the effects. I thought they were cool, but it just didn't blow me away. Number two is great. I'm going to argue there. And 3, I was not looking forward to seeing 3, but I'm glad that I did because 3 was very enjoyable, especially the fight with all the superheroes.
Yeah, that was awesome. The one thing that what I like about Civil War so much is the fact that it's very difficult to have all those characters.
I like that they crippled War Machine.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cool, but the way they did it, it affected the story, affected Tony's character.
That and it gave War Machine something to do.
Right.
I mean, like they've been floundering with him for a while, and they still are in a way.
Right.
And I've always felt bad because I always felt War Machine deserved more. Same thing with Falcon.
That's true. And
you know me and my thoughts on Falcon.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
And one thing was great about Civil War, a great introduction of Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and the young-looking, although she's actually old, but she doesn't look it, Aunt May, Marissa Tomei.
She's still a babe.
Calm down, brother.
She's still a babe. Donald's going to be searching for the wrestler this evening.
I'm sure he will
particular
be.
Scene.
Or some other films.
Yeah, there was one with Philip Seymour Hoffman that she was into. Yeah, I remember that one.
Kevin, is there like a movie you want to talk about that maybe you just didn't quite prefer? Maybe.
We mean one I didn't really like.
Yeah, something that this just didn't work for you.
Oh God, Blade Trinity is definitely one. Blade Trinity was like 3 movies in one. There's like 3 different things going on, and it just didn't make any sense.
But did you like part 1 and 2 though?
Part 1 and 2 were great.
Part 2 was different. It was Guillermo del Toro did the directing on that, and he made it more of a horror-esque type film, which was good. It was fun.
It was cool.
He also threw his boy Ron Perlman a bone by putting him in there.
He was a fun character in the movie.
But the third one they introduced. That's it. Ryan Reynolds was in that one too. Yeah, he was Hannibal King. So
and Justin Timberlake's wife,
and then a friend of the show, of course,
Whistler's daughter.
Friend of the show, of course, Mark Berry.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, Mark Berry. We all worked with at ArcLight, if I recall, right?
Yeah,
That's over
I
a
still
decade
keep
ago.
in touch with him. He's an interesting guy, and he's been doing very well in his TV career. But
Good.
that first film directed by Stephen Norrington, I think for its time was quite ahead of its time because you're mixing elements of horror with martial arts and superhero, and that's really like Marvel was very stubborn about kicking off their big run until the computer effects matched it. But I feel like Blade really laid a lot of
It
groundwork.
laid the foundation, absolutely.
It certainly did.
And Wesley Snipes perfectly cast, and and since him being a real life martial artist, he looks so fluid and believable in the character.
Who knew that you could have a series about a martial artist and hire somebody that knew martial arts?
Ha! Like Jackie Chan.
Yeah, I mean, literally any freaking buddy else but the guy that played Danny Rand in Iron Fist
Right.
that knew martial arts and had any palpable acting credentials or skill.
Hence why Colleen Wing was more tolerable to watch, because she actually is a real life martial artist.
Oh, but they still couldn't write. They couldn't write her out of a paper sack.
I know.
And people forget too, like Wesley Snipes is a legitimately trained actor.
Yep. So he was the best of both worlds, trained actor and trained martial artist.
Yes, Wesley Snipes was great. And honestly, if Wesley Snipes wanted to dip his toes back into that world, hey, I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
Let it happen.
No, I don't care. He's like 55 years old or whatever he is.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Let him do it. He
can
still
do it.
looks good.
Yeah, he takes care of himself.
Uh-huh.
Just like your boy Sly.
He eats his vitamins, says his prayers. He does his Hulk Hogan workout.
That's right.
From the poster and the headband.
Absolutely.
Oh, wait, that's me. Never mind.
Remember, he was in Wildcats.
Who was?
Wesley.
Wildcats?
Yeah.
Like
Remember
with Goldie Hawn?
With the
Yeah.
cats?
Yeah, he had a small part in that.
And they had the fighter jet?
No,
No, we're talking
the
about the
football.
Goldie Hawn.
Goldie Hawn football
Oh,
movie.
well, see, I'm in the cartoon world, guys. I don't think
Well,
that
why
way.
don't you talk to us about your cartoon movies? Because I know you love your cartoon movies, Donald.
I do love my cartoon movies. In fact, I just watched the Batman Ninja one earlier last week.
Were
Was it
you
last week?
I think
Yeah,
so.
last week.
Were you impressed or unimpressed?
Yeah, I was impressed with the look of it. The story was a little weird for me. I must admit.
Japanese
It was
storytelling.
it was a bit out there. I'm middle of the road. I know that you liked it
Right.
a lot, but I thought it was beautiful to watch. It was beautifully done, animated beautifully. Some of the other ones that I really liked was the Red Hood one, Batman,
yes.
Batman Under the Red Hood or whatever it was called.
That was cool.
That one was phenomenal. Flashpoint.
Oh, I was about to say that. Flashpoint was awesome.
Flashpoint was probably the best of the
That
best.
was awesome.
The Wonder Woman animated series was
That was
great.
cool.
Now, if we're talking Marvel, the best one Marvel did was the Doctor Strange one. Yes.
Yeah, Doctor
so if you
Strange
get a
is good.
chance, seek that one out. That's a solid entry
Iron Man
into
was
the
pretty good,
Marvel
too.
animated world. Iron Man was okay. But Marvel's always suffered from not quite knowing what to do with their animation division when it comes to cartoon movies. Now, they did well in the 90s with the X-Men and the Spider-Man series,
Right.
but beyond that,
Oh, the two Avengers animated cartoon movies, they weren't too bad.
they were okay.
They weren't too bad.
Yeah.
They were enjoyable.
They were all right, but they were no Flashpoint or
Oh, no. That's-
even Batman. I very much enjoyed Batman: The Killing Joke. To be
Oh,
honest, I thought
that
that
was
was
fun.
great.
Oh yeah,
That's
we
fun.
saw it with Corey.
Yeah, we saw it at the AMC in Burbank. We went
And what's the
there.
other one? Green Lantern, Emerald Knights?
The one that was the mini stories.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was very enjoyable as well. So DC's done a lot of really good. The Suicide Squad one I really like too. Batman, Arkham's Escape from Arkham.
You need
or
to
whatever
bring
it was.
some more of those story writers onto the cinema side. Although they're improving on the cinema side, you need to bring more of those people over.
Yeah, I mean, Shazam was pretty damn solid. I very much enjoyed that. And Aquaman, I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Wonder Woman was decent. Special effects fatigue for me,
Sure.
to be honest. And that's surprising that I had that with that movie and not with Aquaman. And I
Right.
think that's because Aquaman's whole world was fake, but the characters were real,
Well, you just
if that makes sense.
You're
I hear
basically
you.
with Wonder Woman. You're talking about a film that maybe went on 20 minutes too long.
Yeah.
If you
Right.
cut 20 minutes off that film, it's one of the better movies you'll see.
If you do that and you take the actual actor that played the part of the main villain,
Ares, yeah.
what was it, Ares or
Yeah.
it was Ares, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If you take the actor that actually played the part and put him in some makeup and put him in platforms if you have to, I don't give a shit.
Right. It'd
Make
been much
him,
better.
a foreboding type character. It would have been
Right.
way better. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
The problem is with those DC movies at the time, they were caught up with the CGI monster. That movie, Suicide Squad, Batman versus Superman,
Oh, Doomsday.
Justice League, they're just caught up with these giant CG monsters.
I don't know if you guys saw the sci-fi teaser for Krypton for this season, but they're doing Doomsday and they're doing a guy in the suit.
Really?
And it looks pretty cool. It doesn't look perfect, don't get me wrong,
It looks
but
better.
it looks a hell of a lot better than what you would get with Batman versus Superman.
Well, I told you,
god awful.
Well, I told you my idea what they should have done for Batman vs Superman. Should have turned
Zod into Bizarro.
Bizarro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to this, I mean, I feel like we need to get back on topic in the sense that our television as opposed to movie formats. And I'm a stronger supporter of movie formats. It's probably the generation I came up in where movies were just more prevalent. You know, TV series for this stuff were kind of unheard of at the time. You know, we had the Incredible Hulk series in the 70s and, you know, things like that. But like a lawyer, I feel like I need to build a bit of a case here because this is a very complex issue. So like Miss Sound Engineer, I'm sure you can find the People's Court theme right here and insert it right about now. Ha ha ha. I'm in my head. I'm hearing, you know, dun dun dun, Judge Wapner.
Oh yeah.
But this is a good example. I'm going to take two series here: the Dark Knight trilogy and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. And this is kind of where I go with movies. So, like, I think there's some inevitabilities as writers and storytellers that unfortunately will come up in your series when you're doing, like, let's say television, for example.
What were you talking about? You were referencing who?
That would be Judge Wapner on the People's Court.
Judge Wapner from the People's Court?
Yeah, you know, dun dun dun. Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is like, if you take the Dark Knight trilogy, which is one that worked very well for me, season 1 of The Flash is 15 and a half hours long, guys. There is a lot of space to fill there, and eventually, well, look at that. I'm telling you.
Better late than never.
Darren, attorney at law. Here he comes right now. All right, so the case that I have to make here with the Dark Knight trilogy.
Hopefully we get sued for that.
Chris Nolan, I'm not prepared to kneel at the altar of Chris Nolan. I know.
Well, it's really Jonathan Nolan who usually does the writing.
Well, I know, but
Yeah,
Chris
so-
Nolan is the
Just
filmmaker.
the kneeling.
But he is the filmmaker. Okay, so my point is that I don't kneel at his altar, but I do think what he did stylistically did end up working here. And part of what made it work for me, we're talking about 3 movies or 7.5 to 8 hours basically in length here. There's an inevitability, I feel, when you're doing a superhero story, a through story, that it eventually just falls apart at the seams, meaning that you jump a shark or it's just repetitive and there's only so far you can go. And Chris Nolan took his time and basically delayed it so much that it didn't fall apart as badly as some other series will fall apart.
I can agree with that.
So, like, for example, in Batman Begins, Bruce Wayne doesn't get into the bat suit until 45 minutes into the movie. That's a little unusual.
Because you're building up the character.
Right.
In other words, he has to earn the right to be the Batman.
Well, you need to know who's in that suit before
That's
they
right.
get into that suit.
Know the man in the cow.
Yeah, absolutely. But you see, as a studio executives would probably prefer Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, where they're like, okay, he needs to be Spider-Man by page 5. This is just how this is going to work. You know, we can't drag this out. And I get, and both formats honestly work. It's just a matter of what you prefer. Now, once again, you're racing against the clock, and to me, Nolan is slow walking the story. Where I felt there was a big turn in this franchise is when Joker gets on puts the 2 groups on the boat and says, decide who's going to blow up which boat. At that point, it's going a little far for me. It's still good, but it's just going a little far for me. And then Dark Knight Rises, I'll make the case there's like 2 unnecessary scenes where I'm just like, we don't need this. But
this world that he created, I haven't gone back and watched any of them more than once. I only
Really?
watched them once, and that's it.
And that includes the best one, The Dark Knight.
Yes, that includes that one. It's just because it's so draining to me to watch. There's nothing fun about it.
oh, I agree.
It's like watching a crime heist film.
Like watching Heat or something?
Yeah, it's exactly, yes.
Right.
It's because it's a quality film and it's something you want to have seen in your lifetime, but don't necessarily want to go back to. Now, for example, Avengers, I've seen a multitude of times because it's fun.
Winter Soldier.
Yes, Winter Soldier even is fun. It's got a fun element to it. It walks that fine line. Nolan's films never did that. They never had that fine line of fun.
Well, yeah, there's a joyless element in many situations. I would agree.
Batman is just joyless. In his
No,
films.
I mean, because I go back and watch them, and
some Adam West in your
and I
movie?
do enjoy them.
Yes, a little bit. For God's sakes, give me a little something.
Fine, give you some Joel
but I don't
Schumacher.
even-
How's that?
Michael Keaton knew how to do it. Let's be honest. He knew how to balance the shit
but-
out of Bruce Wayne.
But
and
the
Batman.
overall point I'm making here is that this stuff to me I didn't lose interest in these three movies, and I think that's something. If we go to Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi version, it fell apart at the seams by the end. However,
Wasn't his fault.
However-
Studio interference.
I know, I understand, but my point is that I quite enjoyed the first film. I waited 2 years, and I remember when that trailer dropped for Spider-Man 2, and I'm like, this looks incredible. And then when it was released, it was getting the most favorable reviews I've ever seen a superhero movie get. You know,
Yep, it raised the bar. It
This
really
was
did.
before Dark Knight.
Yeah, it elevated.
2004.
It elevated the superhero genre yet again. The second film did, and I think a lot of that had to do with Raimi's talent in his meshing of his skills and mindset from Evil Dead technique into Spider-Man. If you think of Doc Ock's tentacles,
That's perfect. You know we got the skills
that's
from.
the Necronomicon,
Evil Dead, yeah.
Dead coming through the forest. You know, that's the same technique that he would use, and it was beautifully done.
I always told you when I first saw Evil Dead, like the first movie, I said, "Oh my God, this director is good. He should direct a Spider-Man movie one day." And then when they announced it, I got so happy. It's like I knew he was the perfect person.
Right. I remember you couldn't keep your hands out of your pants.
No, I couldn't.
whole day.
I couldn't.
well, Sam also too has a real passion for Spider-Man. This is not a paycheck project. He's
Right.
a real Spider-Man fan. And obviously, we know 3 fell apart at the seams, but this is essentially one of the issues that I have with superhero in general, just the whole genre, is I do not like it to be oversaturated in the method that it is now. So, like, for example, I distinctly remember the first time I saw Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire in Austintown Regal Cinemas, in 2002. I specifically remember that moment. Since that moment, we've had Andrew Garfield at near 30 years old playing Spider-Man. We've had Tom Holland playing Spider-Man. I have seen Spider-Man go through high school 3 times with 3 different people playing that character. So this constant reinventing is not like, it's not like bringing something back from an ancient time.
Look at it like Shakespeare, like
Yeah,
Macbeth.
we're well aware at this point. Like, we've seen Spider-Man in utter iterations.
The best way they ever did the recap of we've done this before was when they did the Incredible Hulk. When they did the actor that did not want to be there, Edward Norton. Edward Norton. When they did his iteration, in the opening sequence, they showed you everything you needed to know about how he became the Hulk.
Right.
They didn't
got down to business.
Right. They didn't run you through all the bullshit. It went right to it. While it wasn't a perfect film, that opening was the best opening you could have asked for.
Or
for
I know
that film.
the Eric
anyway.
Bana one that from Ang Lee. I know a lot of people. To me, it was a very artistic film. I know, it's something you got to have for the palette for.
Yeah, that should have been a different film. Not the
No,
Hulk.
and the Bana film, I enjoyed up until the point of Absorption Man. And I don't want to say I enjoyed a lot, but I was getting through it fine. And then Absorption Man, I lost it. But just wrapping up here, my final point, one of the things that will bother me about the MCU universe, and by MCU universe, I mean basically everything since Iron Man, is that you have some good films, you have some bad films. But what they've done is they've done what I would prefer them not to do. In that previous Batman and Spider-Man film, those are standalone films to me. They wrap things up and they make it perfectly cool. What you're seeing now with the MCU, up until, of course, Endgame, was that tune in to the next episode. And I'm like, well, if I was watching a TV series or reading a comic book, that's fine. But I feel like they're not resolving enough in each of these movies. And I'm like, why am I sitting here for 2.5 hours and you're not even resolving anything? You're just telling me, watch the next movie. It almost feels like a commercial. Watch the next movie. Watch the next movie.
Right.
And then, like, I couldn't stand Avengers Part 2, which meant I couldn't see Avengers Part 3 coming and being so good.
Right.
It feels so imbalanced to me. And this is kind of why I like the movies, especially the older ones, because they wrap things up. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that. They're not building towards a world-building universe like a lot of people want now for everything. like Warner Brothers, the MonsterVerse, you know, with their Godzilla and King Kong and all the Godzilla's monsters. And then Universal with their Fast and Furious franchise, and then branching off with Hobbs and Shaw, and and then so Disney, of course, with the Marvel franchise, and also
Wars.
with Star Wars, and a lot of other things. So you have all these companies that want to do this. Sony wanted to do, when they redid Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man with Garfield, they wanted to create a Sinister Six like spin-off
They've been trying that
film.
for years.
Right. They did manage to get the Venom spin-off, and by the grace of God, it wasn't complete trash. There was some salvageable things in it, and they made it fun, which saved it.
Right.
If it wasn't fun,
It'd be over.
it would have been a nightmare.
And
Oh,
now,
yeah.
and soon in a sequel, I guess, will be Venom versus Carnage.
We'll see.
No, and there's this pit in my stomach when I watch a movie like Rogue One, which I enjoyed Rogue One, but I can't help but think how unnecessary this is. It's basically based off of 2 sentences of Star Wars New Hope. Well, people died to get these plans. I
Right.
didn't need to see that story, guys.
No, you didn't. But in argument for it,
Devil's Advocate,
you don't. I felt like The Force Awakens was unnecessary.
Oh, God.
And that's more than one film, and that created by far the most disputed and arguably worst film in Star Wars franchise history.
Oh, yes.
Which would be The Last Jedi.
And believe me, don't get me started on that. That sequel trilogy could have been so awesome had it been
shoulda.
had it been properly planned
But-
and executed.
Right, but when we look at like the one-offs, we look at Rogue One, while only based off of a couple lines from a movie, I thought it was phenomenal.
Right, it was-
and I
it was
loved the
good.
characters in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And Solo, very much enjoyable, even though it wasn't perfect. It was a one-off. It's the one-offs of this that I enjoy more. So
Yeah.
for you, it was the older superhero films. And for me, in Star Wars, it's the one-offs now, because I like that they're telling the story and they're like, okay, that's done. Now next story, next one-off. And I'm sad that that might not happen for a while because Solo didn't do as well as they would have liked.
Well, and a lot of why Solo didn't do well was probably because of Last Jedi getting bashed like it did. And I'm going to agree with
Absolutely.
you. Like I said, I want to reiterate, I did enjoy Rogue One. But the necessity of it is what I don't like. And I think that people who are making these films, I remember, Donald, it's funny, I rewatched a film that we went to see in the theater, The Grey, with Liam Neeson.
Oh, yes.
The Grey is a one-off movie. It has a coherent beginning, middle, and end.
You sure there won't be a Grey too?
And that's Joe Carnahan, right?
Joe Carnahan, yeah.
Yeah, right.
How come there's not gonna be a Grey too?
Okay, but this is my point, Kevin. We
Just watch it.
you watch a film, and while I could make some arguments about the quality of the ending, we have wrapped everything up into one thing. You have given, like, Lethal Weapon 1 was made without the idea of Lethal Weapon 2
3 and
existing.
4, right.
And that's what I wish they would get back to, because then I will revisit those films more. Like Thor Ragnarok, for example.
It's awesome.
Talking about, for me, not necessarily a necessary movie, but quite enjoyable. Without a question. Like, I had no business liking that movie as much as I did, because I was a harsh critic of Thor 1 and even Thor 2. But, once again, I question the necessity, and that's just for my for the purpose of what I enjoy, I would prefer them to wrap these things up a little tighter.
Yeah.
Because then it's like,
I agree.
it all leads to Endgame, and a guy like me who felt Endgame was above average, now I'm like, what did I just invest 12 years of my life into? You know what I mean? Like, I needed Endgame to knock this out of the stadium, and it just didn't do it for me.
No, it didn't do it for me either. I will say, I watched it. I felt a little empty after I finished it. And I was like, we built up for all of this, and this is what we get. And granted, they probably did the best they could with what they had.
Sure.
And I'm not hating it. I'm just not completely satisfied with it. I wanted more. And I know a lot of fans out there did. And we should be happy with what we got, sure. But if we are not critics of our own universes that we build in our mind with these characters, then what's the point? I mean, why even exist at this point? I'm going existential here, guys. I'm having a crisis now about my own life based upon these characters.
I mean, let me just bounce what you were saying and maybe elaborate on that. The original Iron Man film, when I worked on that, was barely in my mid-20s. Now I'm pretty much in my late 30s, and I'm like, I spent my mid-20s to my late 30s following this MCU, and that's how you're going to conclude it for me. And what's really upsetting too is I know you guys, Donald specifically, is a big fan of Mysterio, but I'm so fatigued. I don't even want to watch that movie right now.
Mysterio's my hero.
and that I don't want to feel like that with the Spider-Man film where I'm like, oh my God, because I'm the guy who went and saw Amazing Spider-Man 2 in the movie theater because I liked the character.
What did you think about Into the Spider-Verse?
You know, Into the Spider-Verse was interesting and intriguing. It was a very different take. And that's one of those moments where it's like, look, it is a risk to reinvent yourself. But there, it worked for me.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the same tired old story because it was a new Spider-Man.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was phenomenal. And I'm excited to see more of that. But I am glad, if it just ended there, I am glad that that movie exists because it's a happy, fun one that I'm happy to revisit.
Right. And with this Spider-Man Far From Home coming out, like I said, I'm not intrigued. I could sit in the theater and be like, okay, I should have been excited the whole time for this. But like I said, I'm not going to put a guarantee on that because, Spider-Man has obviously let us down before.
Yes. Yep. And speaking of letting our audience down gently, I think we're going to call it there.
Yeah.
And wrap this one up. We want to thank you for listening. Guys, we are very excited for a lot of reasons, but we do have our podcast up on a lot of new platforms now. Brand spanking new.
Like Spotify.
We've got Spotify. We have...
guys...
We've got... What is it?
It's Google Play.
Yeah, thank you. Google Play Music. We've got iTunes. We've got it on Spreaker. We've got it on
YouTube, for
obviously
sure.
YouTube. Yes, of course.
There's just so many platforms I can't even keep
You
track of
basically
anymore.
have no excuses not to watch the real short box.
And remember, part of this reason we do this is because you guys and girls have all been faithful listeners and have allowed us to expand our voice. And for that, we're very grateful for you.
Yes, thank you for coming out and listening to us. And with that, my name is Donald.
My name is Kevin.
And I'm Darren.
Please always give us a like, and perhaps when we're out and about, we might see you
At the comic shop.
This has been The Real Short Box. We'll see you at the comic shop. Thanks for listening.